Then 16 teams qualify, so the top 2 teams from each group qualify, and 4 of the 6 third place teams qualify as well. So there's a lot of games just to get down to 16. So we'll just give a quick look through it. So the Group A, Germany the host, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. And again, Hungary who are playing out the Republic of Ireland, so in the friendly match. So what's your thoughts on Group A there, Noel?
Yeah, Germany, of course, the hosts. The last won the Euros in 1996, if I'm not mistaken, in England. Look, Germany, they haven't really been convincing in tournament football in the last couple of them, to be honest, which the last World Cup was a complete disaster. But you'd hope, I think Nagelsmann now has a contract till the next World Cup. I think everything's sort of settled down in terms of management fiasco there. So I'd be expecting a good tournament from Germany, to be fair. I think they have to eventually click. I think they've got some good players. The forward line, Paul, is again, they don't have a natural goal scorer, you could say, that could get you 20, 30 goals a season. I know that Thomas Muller is he's on the way now and sure he's 34 now, I think it is. They don't have like a Harry Kane type of a striker. That's something that might let Germany down. But if you're looking through that group, Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. Switzerland are a funny team, Paul. They all seem to qualify and they all seem to get out of groups, but they never really seem to go much further. And I think that the squad they have, they should be doing better. Hungary, they've really kicked on in the last number of years, Paul, to be honest with you. I think they did very well in that Nations League group they have with England one time. I think they beat them 4-0 away. Now, that was sort of during COVID as well. And they've qualified, I think they're one of the top seeds now, Paul, to be fair, when they topped the group the last couple of times. Nations League and qualifiers. Scotland did very, very well in the group with Spain, qualified. I think we even beat Spain 2-0 in Hampden Park. They have sort of gone off form a little bit lately, Paul. I think they qualified with about 2 or 3 games to spare, and they didn't really. I know it can happen, Paul, where teams can go into bad form when they've already qualified. So I think they beat Gibraltar 2-0 away from home, and you expect Scotland to beat them by at least 3 or 4 more than that. So Scotland aren't exactly coming into good form, and as we know, Scotland have never qualified for a quarter-final, or I think, even, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Scotland have ever got out of a group, either Euros or World Cup. So Scotland have qualified for more tournaments than us, but they never seem to peak at the right time in tournament football.
I think the problem with Scotland, Noel, is Hampden Park is a real fortress at home, and the Scottish crowd are at home. So in the qualifying competition, they're very strong at home, but then they can get carried away. Then, like in 1978, before your time, when the World Cup was on in Argentina, before they went off, they held a big celebration in Hampden Park. They had a kind of a big bus or an open top lorry. They went around the stadium, and the manager was talking. They were going out to win the World Cup, and the Scottish crowd were going book him. The place was Hampden Park was full. They were going to go out and win the World Cup, and they were knocked out in the group stages and beaten by Peru. Was that? They get carried away.
Yeah, and like the only one that I don't remember, but I've heard about it. The only time they got close to getting out of the group of the Euros was in '96 when England were hammering Holland, and England conceded one goal in the last 10 minutes, and Scotland won their game. But that goal that Holland scored.
So no, just call it before we move on, because we have 6 groups to go. What top 2 to get through?
I think it'd be Germany, and I have a funny feeling Switzerland with the top 2, and I think Hungary will probably get third. I think Scotland will probably finish last.
Yeah.
Based on their tournament football, based on their form lately.
Yeah. So we now go to Group B, and this is the group of dates for I see. It reminds me of 2012 where Ireland being in with Spain, Croatia, Italy, and poor old Albania have got the group of dates. I think Albania are going to struggle in all in 3 games. The big question here, can all the 3 teams qualify, Spain, Croatia, and Italy? Because any of them 2 could even get to a final, or any of them could get to the final or even win it, because they're 3 strong nations.
3 very strong nations, Paul. Spain, were very poor in the World Cup. When they didn't really click at all. Luis Enrique then eventually lost his job. Croatia, of course, got to the World Cup semi-finals, got eventually beat by Argentina. And of course, Italy, they were a funny team, Paul. They won the Euros in 2020 and didn't back it up by qualifying for the World Cup, and they've obviously qualified for this, being the hosts. I think they were in England's group. I think England beat them twice. So, but you never know with Italy, though. They're in the Euros in particular. The last time they defended very, very well. They won a lot of games. 2-1 or 1-0. I think they beat Switzerland for 3-0 in the last years. I would expect that the way the table is there, I think to be the way it finished. Basically, I think Spain will top the group. Croatia, it's up for grabs. I think for Croatia or Italy for second place, and I think Albania, as you said, Paul. Although they played it very well, Albania, and they've qualified on merit. I think tournament football, they'll be exposed. I think they qualified for the last Euro 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that's a terrible group for Albania, and three very strong nations. And I see it it's just as you said yourself, Paul, whether the third place in that group would be enough to qualify, because I think it's the best of what is it, 6 or
the 6 groups of the top 4 of the 6 third place teams qualify.
Yeah. So I think it just depends on who. It just depends on whether Spain will win all 3 games, and then there'll be a big battle then for the second and the third place will come down to knife edge. You never know, but I think the way the group is set there is probably the way it's going to finish. But I think Croatia is going to be a great game, because I think they're two good teams. I think the Spanish game can be a little bit boring, where it's pass and get nowhere sometimes. But I think Spain will probably top the group. I wouldn't be sure on their strikers, but I think they have enough to top that group. And I think it's a toss-up between Croatia and Italy for second place.
Yeah. Now we move to Group C: Slovenia, Denmark, Serbia, and England. And Noel, just before we look at it, I'm old enough to remember before your time when Yugoslavia were one country. And if we look at them 2 groups now, Yugoslavia, of course, the country broke up. They contain Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia, and there's other teams as well. It just goes to show how strong soccer is in the old Yugoslavia, as it's called. The 3 of the teams that broke it. I think there's 7 different countries now in the old Yugoslavia. There's 3 of them there already qualifies. 3. That's about it then for the rest of them. But it just goes to show there's a great history and tradition in soccer in that the old Yugoslavia. So Group C, we have Slovenia, Serbia, Denmark, and England. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think England should be top in this group, Paul, to be fair. I think England have ambitions of winning the tournament, and of course they got to the final last time in Euro 2020. But it's not going to be exactly plain sailing either, Paul, to be honest with you. I think if England have their best squad out and the best players playing, England should top that group, to be fair. Don't know too much about Slovenia. I think they've done very well to get there. Denmark can be hit and miss sometimes. They can be brilliant, they can be awful. Serbia, very good. Obviously, to be very good in qualifiers, Paul. But as we said, as we've been saying about Scotland and other teams, when they get to tournament football, they don't seem to be able to produce it. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think England is going to top the group. I think it's probably going to be Denmark for second. And I think it's a battle in between Slovenia and Serbia then for third place, if the third place team is good enough to get out of the group. And England, there's a lot of talk about England. They've got one of the best. Look, to be fair, they've got one of the best squads in Europe. And I think only France probably would be probably ahead of them in terms of quality, because France have got to the last World Cup. They've won the World Cup in 2018, of course. I just think it's now or never for Gareth Southgate, because I think the only way he can continue is if he wins the Euros. I think even if he gets to the final and loses, I don't think he's going to be good enough to keep his job. If he wants to keep his job for next World Cup, it all depends. So I think this is the last hurrah for Southgate, so he'll want to bang out in the high. Of course, they got Foden, they got Jude Bellingham, of course, playing Real Madrid, got the Player of the Year, La Liga, won the Champions League. So they've got very good players. They got Harry Kane, of course, banging the goals of Bayern Munich. Still hasn't won a major trophy, Harry Kane, but he's one of the best strikers in Europe. It's just their defence, ball and goalkeeper. I'm not sure about England, to be honest with you. I don't think they have, in terms of when you talk about England defenders like John Stones, it's always people talk about him when he's on the ball, playing out from the back and stuff like that. John Stones is a very good footballer, but Harry Maguire, I think, has been injured. That's one area that I think that might let England down, is their defence. And sometimes they don't really control against as much as they should either. But getting back to it, I think England top the group, Denmark second, and as I said earlier on, a battle in between Slovenia and Serbia for third place.
Yeah. No, I suppose the only thing is, when we get down to the knockout stage, we can maybe a bigger discussion in England if they can win it or not, and we leave it in. About Serbia, they had a very good underage team a few years ago. I think they won the European, was it the under 17 or under 19 or one of those competitions. But Serbia also, when they get to these tournaments, they seem to underperform. I should say, when Serbia are at home in Belgrade, it's a red hot atmosphere. I mean, Serbia, they're a very patriotic, nationalistic country, and do you know what I mean? So that when any sporting team, basketball is very strong in Serbia, soccer is other, and when they're at home, they're really passionate. The crowd are inside in the stadium maybe 2 hours before the match, and they're very hard to beat at home. But in a tournament, when you go to a tournament, it's completely different. Even though they have a big supporters and they haven't too far, they won't have that massive home following. And it's a different scenario qualifying to the tournament. And they somehow don't seem to produce it. But in technical raw ability, Serbia would have a lot of very good quality players. And as I said about the whole Yugoslavia, Serbia would have been the biggest country in that. Serbia and Croatia would have been the two biggest ones. And there's great clubs there in Belgrade. You had Red Star Belgrade, you had Partizan Belgrade. There's fierce, strong history and tradition, but somehow when they get to these tournaments, it's a different scenario. You're kind of away from the crowd during the week. You're not building up to it. The games come every 3 matches. They seem to fall apart. But just a quick word on that before we move on to the next 3 groups. Qualifying for a tournament is completely different to actually when you're playing in the tournament.
Oh yeah, we've seen it with the history of Serbia. It was because we remember ourselves when the Republic of Ireland played out in Serbia. Joe Martin O'Neill, we were lucky enough to get a 2-2 draw, to be honest with you, Paul. But it was red hot. It was a very intimidating atmosphere. It was a great point that we got that day away to Belgrade. First, they beat us at home in Lansdowne Road. That was in the World Cup for 2018, I think it was. But yeah, it's a very, very hostile atmosphere out in Serbia. But like you said, and as we said earlier on, Tournament football is different. It's neutral grounds. It's probably 50-50 split for the fans. It depends on what sort of travelling support you have. Might get a little bit more on one side than the other. But it's tournament football. There's no intimidation also from the home fans. You could say, a few decisions might go for you in the home.
Yeah.
So human nature. So, but look, they're capable of getting out of the group. I'm not writing them off completely. But it's just that I do think Denmark are more suited to tournament football than Serbia at the moment.
Yeah. So Group D, then we have big favourites, France, the Netherlands, who they met in the qualifying group, and we know them very well in Ireland. You also have Poland and Austria, 2 traditionally strong teams. So that's a very tough group.
Yeah, very, very tough group. It's like deja vu again for the Netherlands and France. They were in our qualifying group as well, Paul. France hammered the Netherlands 4-0 at home, and I think they beat them, I think it was a 2-1 away. So the Netherlands are gutted that they've got France again in their group. Poland, of course, won the playoff round against Wales. I think they beat them on penalties. And Austria, I think, topped their group. And Ralph Rangnick, the man, the interim manager at Manchester United, actually took over Austria. He guided them to their, I think, the top of the group. He seemed to be playing good football. He was linked with the Bayern Munich job, but he said, "No, I'm staying with Austria." So that's actually not a bad group, Paul, in terms of quality of football. To be honest with you, Poland will fancy their chances of getting into the third spot if third place should be enough. I wouldn't say it's dead cert, but you would say that France will top the group and probably the Netherlands second. The Netherlands can be a bit flaky sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But I do think though that it's going to be a battle for third place between Poland and Austria if third place is enough. I have to back France to win that group.
Yeah. Okay, now we move on now. Just the clock is ticking. So Group E, Belgium, Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine. And be honest with you, Noel, that's that any 2 could come out of that. I just can't split them up. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Belgium could be very much flattered this year. I think they were called their golden generation over the numerous years there when Roberto Martinez was in charge of them. 2018, they got to the semi-finals, but they never really, I think in tournament football, they've never really produced it. They had Thibaut Courtois, who of course played in the Champions League final. He's been injured all season, but he had a great match there Saturday night. He's not even in the extended squad, so I know he's been injured all season, but he's still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But they're not bringing him to the Euros this season. Of course, it's been a 30-man squad. They'll have to bring it down to 26, and he's not included. So Belgium could be flattered to see, but I do think they'll have enough to get out of that group, Paul. I don't know much about Romania. Ukraine, of course, won the playoff round, so they already booked their place back in March. So it's a toss-up really between. I think Belgium should win that group, Paul, but you never know them. They never seem to. Kevin De Bruyne, for example.
So can you call the second place? No, we move on because we don't know time.
I think it's going to be Slovakia. I think Belgium, Slovakia is going to be the top 2.
Now we go to the last group now, just because the clock is ticking. Turkey, Georgia, Portugal, and Czech Republic are not. That's the Czech Republic. So Georgia, of course, their first
Yeah.
time qualifying, and there's potentially the manager might become the Irish manager. But just in them four, can you pick the two? It's very hard before we run out of time.
I think it's going to be Portugal. I like the fancy of Turkey there now. I think Turkey are a good side. They're a very, very good technical team. I think if it has to be called very quickly, Paul, I think it's going to be Portugal first and possibly Turkey second.